I am certified in ARC. So basically, it's a trauma-focused treatment for children and adolescents and dealing with traumatic stress. And it has these building blocks. So we're going to go talk about kind of 3 different levels of these building blocks. So one of them, the first one is caregiver factors, which we'll jump into right now. The second one is child self-regulation. And the third one is the trauma integration. So I think the caregiver factors is such a huge component in helping our kids deal with this type of traumatic stress. So the first one is management of self-affect. So basically what that means is being mindful of how your emotions and your behaviors are impacting your child. I know that sounds really tough and it's a lot harder. It's easier said than done, I will say, because obviously if your child is hurting, that's not going to feel good for you either. Right. So what that means is, again, figuring out different strategies as to how you can kind of regulate yourself. It doesn't need to be like going to yoga and then going to brunch or like taking a 2-hour bath or like something like that, because who has time for that? Like, let's be real. So basically it's being able to check yourself in the moment. So let's say your child is experiencing a meltdown and it's really frustrating for you. That's okay to feel that way. You're a human. It's totally okay. Taking like a couple steps away or sitting on the floor and taking a couple deep breaths to center yourself for literally 30 seconds, that can be enough to kind of help you be able to help your child. Because again, if you're not in a good headspace, it's going to be really hard for you to support your child who's really struggling as well. Identifying the emotional experience can be like a color. It can be a shape. It can be anything along those lines. But however that kid kind of wants to label that experience, I think that is definitely appropriate. Reason being is because a lot of times we're feeling a lot of different emotions at once. And I think that can be scary in itself. So if we're able to kind of compartmentalize different emotions, no matter like what modality we're doing it in, that can kind of help the kid be like, okay, it's okay to feel yellow and blue at the same time. And I'm feeling yellow and blue. If we're talking about children who are nonverbal, we want to find other modalities for them to be able to kind of communicate this. These are really helpful to do with a mental health professional, because with kids with trauma, and especially kids who are very, very sensitive, you want to do them very like incrementally. So for instance, if there's a child who is really impacted by a very, very loud, like siren type of a noise, what we might do is kind of show them pictures of the car that made that noise, like the ambulance or whatnot. And then we might kind of gradually work them up to kind of hearing kind of like quieter versions of that sound, so that their body can regulate and they can kind of create a neural connection that's saying, okay, this is not a dangerous sound. Yes, it was uncomfortable for me, but it's not dangerous. So what we're doing is increasing their tolerance for that particular trigger. So it might not make the trigger go away 100%, but it can make the trigger a lot less scary. So it's almost like visualizing like the feared events, but exposing yourself to it in your mind so that it feels a little bit less intimidating.